Excuse me. Hi. Hello? Yes? I just want to make sure that everyone's okay with me taking pictures. I'm mainly going to be focused on the person up here. So everyone in the audience, unless you want to turn around, do a little smile, I'm just going to get pictures of the back of your head. So cool.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I love seeing everybody in here connecting and talking with each other, which is really at the end the whole point of A2NewTech. But we'll go ahead and just get started. First thing is, for those who don't know me, my name is Hein, like the ketchup without the Z. I am the host of A2NewTech. Outside of this, I have a branding and website development studio called Huck Finch. So if you have a website or looking to build a website on Webflow, holler at me. With that said, for first timers, welcome to A2NewTech. We love having all the first timers join us. It's great. And of course, all the returning vets who are here to continue to support us. So we love that. So for those who are new to this, the first thing that we do is we do a poll. Obviously, it's a little wonky because we have the live people and the virtual people. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to open up the poll to the people online, give them a chance to present who they are, and then give everybody here a chance to think about who you are. And then I'll have you raise your hand. So let me start the poll. Actually, before I start the poll, I'll provide the options here. So think about it. Are you an entrepreneur? Are you looking to start a venture? Are you an investor, marketer, designer? That could be graphic designer, UX designer, software developer, or other. So go ahead, and those in the room, think about which one of those you are. I'll ask you to raise your hand shortly. But for those online, I'm going to start the poll for them for a minute. Usually this goes by pretty quick. Okay. Cool. All right, give a few more seconds here and we'll share the results of the poll. All right. All right, so I'll go ahead and end the poll here. For those online, we have a couple entrepreneurs, someone looking to start a venture. So maybe they'll hear the presentations tonight and get inspired. No investors, no marketers out there, one designer, a couple software developers, and 4 others. So for the others, as always, feel free to type into the chat what other option you would have put. But for those in the room, we'll go around and do the poll real quickly. Raise your hand if you are an entrepreneur currently. Awesome. Anyone here looking to start their own venture? Nice. All right. Any investors? All right, got 1. Marketers, designers, software developers. All right, got a couple. And then anybody who would put themselves under other. Whole lot of others. All right, I'm looking forward to hearing what all the others are for you guys. But awesome. But thank you so much for obviously playing along with the poll. Like, you know, one big part about A2NewTech is presenting all the cool tech that's going on in Ann Arbor. And ever since I've taken over as host about a couple years ago, I really wanted to be able to showcase all the great things that are happening in this state in general. But the other part of it that's really important to A2NewTech is what you were all doing earlier, which was chatting with each other and building a community and, you know, working with each other and helping to kind of showcase how amazing not only Ann Arbor, but the state of Michigan is for a startup ecosystem. All right, so with that, I'm gonna keep moving things along. Let's see, go back to my notes. All right, so another great way to connect with the community outside of A2NewTech is with our Slack. If you go to madeina2.com/Slack, Slack. You can join our Slack group. There's questions in there that people ask, and there's a lot of great resources. People share news about amazing things going on. I think like one of the news that was shared recently was May Mobility's like round, which you can kind of see here, the May Mobility cars. So, it's a really great place to kind of connect with people as well and stay connected with them. All right, so for those who are new, this is how it's going to work. We have 3 presenters tonight, whom I will give a summary about them shortly. They have 5 minutes each approximately to share their startup with us. After that, we'll do 5 minutes for Q&A. If there are questions online, I'll just read them out loud, and then the presenters will answer them. Any questions in the room, they will repeat them so then those online can hear them, and then answer them for about 5 minutes. After the presentations are done, we move into community announcements. So if you are looking to hire or you have a startup, a meetup that you'd like to have people join, that's your time to share during the community announcements. And after that, just mingling and hanging out. And for those online, I'll open up a breakout room for you guys to hang out for about 30 minutes or so just to connect and chat. All right, so we're getting close to my part being done. I know you're not here for me, and this is easily the worst part, but you have to bear with me. I'm going to thank our sponsors real quickly: A2 Geeks, Roger Railed, Ann Arbor Spark, the Entrepreneurship Clinic at U of M's Law School, and of course, Forum for hosting us here. Those of you may have noticed it, but I said this is going to be hopefully our last time in the garage space. I know that's bittersweet, but that means we get to move on over to the new space across the street at Venue, which is going to be really awesome. So thank you for coming tonight to bid the garage farewell. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and bring up our first presenter, which is Nate Jefferson of Subleasify. Subleasify is solving the pricey and inconvenient challenge of subleasing. So let's give a round of applause for Nate. It's fine like that, no worries. No worries, no worries. Sorry about that. No worries.
All right. Can I have your attention, please? How are you doing, everyone? My name is Nate Jefferson, and I'm the co-founder of Subleasify. Next slide, please. So first thing first, why do people sublease? Well, people choose to sublease because they may be studying abroad, and you can just click through all 5 clicks. Studying abroad, they may have a current lease, but they graduated and they want to go somewhere else. They may be an international student, they may be working remotely, or they may just not stand their roommate, right? These are all reasons, valuable reasons to sublease. Next slide, please. However, 2 clicks. However, this is a two-sided challenge. This is a two-sided challenge for a tenant and also for a property manager. In terms of a tenant, they're dealing with inconveniences due to their time, having to deal with large sums of paperwork, trying to onboard a subtenant, as well as expensive fees, either to bring on a sublease, to allow a sublease to happen, or just to get out of their current lease. And then lastly, the property may not even offer a sublease at all. And this again prevents us from allowing that tenant of solving the problems that we saw in the previous slide. For the property manager, they have an increased workload, which, let's be honest, nobody wants to deal with. And that increased workload comes from documentation and trying to bring on a subtenant. In addition to this, there's frustrated tenants and subtenants because there's an inconvenient subleasing process. And this reduces the relationship that the property manager has with these subtenants and tenants, as well as overall reducing the relationship with their community. And lastly, there's a lack of financial incentive to encourage a property manager to do something like this. So what's the solution? Next slide. Subleasify. Simply, Subleasify is a web-based platform that connects a tenant with a subtenant. And once that subtenant has found a unit that they deem valuable for them to move into, they'll notify the property manager saying, hey, I'd like to move in here. The property manager will do a background check on our platform. Once that background check is approved, they'll send all the onboarding documentation on our app, making it streamlined and seamless for that property manager to then allow that subtenant to pay rent just like that. And you can click 3 times. So how it works is the property manager will upload their leasing agreement, screening questionnaire. They will let us know the financial incentive they would like to receive based on a financial calculator that we have. The tenant would list the picture of the unit that they would like to list, understanding that Subleasify is able to be used for their subleasing purposes. And they would list any amenities for that unit that they would like a subtenant to see. At that point in time, a potential subtenant may see this posting on Instagram, Facebook, wherever the tenant listed this unit at. And at that point in time, the subtenant, like I told you, would notify the property manager, hey, I would like to stay here. The property manager will send over the leasing agreement, the screen questionnaire, and then at that point, it's time to pay that rent. 2 clicks, please. So our payment model is very simple. The tenant will list the unit for the current price that they pay for rent, plus a 2% fee, that's the Subleasify fee, and a 5% fee in this instance for what the property manager would like to receive for the sublease. Next slide, please. Now, in this example, a property management company like DTN with 115 communities and on average 400 units per community is making about 4% of those units are making subleases each year at an average price of $1,300 per month for rent. And again, this property management company in this instance chose to earn 5% of the fee for the fee chose to be was 5% for this particular instance, and it allowed them to gross over $100,000 for a free platform that provides value from the standpoint of convenience and building relationship with their tenants and subtenants. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of a competitive landscape, we really don't have much competition, and it's from the standpoint of the areas we provide value. We provide value from the standpoint of conveniency. Again, all the documentation is onboarded on our platform, as well being able to find that subtenant in an effective manner, extremely convenient for all parties. Visibility, allowing these different subtenants to understand that this is something they're seeing across the board at different properties. Scam protection, which is huge. You got Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, different companies, different websites that people are using to sublease. However, there's no guarantee that the person that they're interacting with actually stays at this property. With Subleasify, because we go directly to the property manager and the property manager approves their tenants using our platform, it's a guarantee that this tenant actually stays there. Cost, again, it's very convenient for people to be able to use this subleasing platform, whereas previously they might have to pay $900 or maybe even double the price of their rent payments. And again, the financial incentive, which is huge for property managers because they're making money on something that's free for them to be able to use. Next slide, please. The potential market opportunity that we have here is about $11.2 million. And this is just based on the number of potential units, or I'm sorry, the number of units out in the US marketplace currently, multiplied based on our market research, the amount of subleasing that happens per year, which is 4% annually. And the market that we would like to get into is worth 140 million. And that's understanding that we would like that 4% of leasing to go to 15% of leasing, and of units leasing anyway. And that's just understanding that, again, this is a free platform that we're providing to property managers that allows them to positively affect their bottom line. I mean, who doesn't like making money and making their tenants happy, right? The business model is simple. We sell to property managers onboard our software. Their tenant to use our software, work with the subtenant comes in, they pay rent, Subleasify earns 2%, and boom, we continue that cycle but expand, working with more and more units. The estimated revenue growth for year one is over $15,000. This is understanding that our current relationship with the apartment property company, the property management company, Peak Management, with the relationship we have with them, everything goes well. In year two, we plan to gross over $50,000, understanding that we bring on a DTN size company, again, with the 115 units. And then year three, we want one DTN size company in each Big Ten state. Doing this will allow us to gross over $500,000. Next slide, please. So the ask. Today, we're asking for $40,000 to be able to fund our investment, to be able to create this software that we're looking to provide value to the subleasing landscape, as well as looking to provide value to property managers. Any connections to property managers would be extremely, extremely valuable. And that is all that I have for you today. Thank you. Right. So I personally have no experience working in the real estate industry. Besides working along uncles who've worked on developing properties, me personally, I have no experience. And that's where we're really looking to lean on our investors to potentially get that insight on where we potentially may be naive and looking at. We definitely want to hit the California market. It's funny enough that we are in talks of trying to reach out to that market with property managers out there. So you may see us out there soon. Yes. So I was in the garage with my buddies eating Cheetos. No, I'm just like, basically my partner, Brian, ended up coming to me with the idea, saying, hey, Nate, I have a great idea, but it's going to take a lot of time and energy and I can't do it by myself. I need your help. And me, I enjoy interacting with people. More than importantly, though, I enjoy providing value to people. I have a financial literacy nonprofit. I was just talking to my guy back here about it. And at the end of the day, I love providing value to people that allows them to enhance their lives. And when I saw this opportunity, I saw an opportunity not only to enhance people's lives, but also to become profitable in the same process. So once I heard the idea, we agreed and hit the ground running. Yeah, so if you want to go, could you go back to those, like, I think 4 slides? Yeah, so there are properties or there's companies currently that do something similar, but again, they don't hit all the aspects that we hit, right? And the big piece is, again, connecting people with that scam protection. And a big piece is streamlining the documentation for those sublets to be able to hop on board with the property manager and do business. Yes. So we have somebody who's agreed to jump on board. Once we have our final product out, we're currently working with the software development company Augusto out of Grand Rapids. And so right now we're looking for capital to be able to fund this expenditure. However, we do have a company, a property management company who's agreed to allow us to test with their communities, specifically 2 of their communities, and they have 14 altogether. So in terms of a customer ready to pay, yes, we do have somebody, but we need the product to be able to make that happen. Did you have a question? So the question was, the property managers work with us and we are then able to allow that property manager to offer a sublet to those subtenants. Is that correct? So yeah, so more than anything, the property offers subleasing. All we do is connect that subtenant with the property manager in a much more efficient manner. And then when it comes to the onboarding documentation or any other documentation that's needed to make that smooth transition happen for that subtenant, we do it all on the app. That's a great question. We do value sales, but understanding that there's currently nothing in the marketplace like this. Again, understanding that if we just work with one DTN company, size company, and that's just one, that's 115 communities in each Big Ten state. I mean, you could potentially multiply that number by 3, just trying to go from year 3 to year 5, and that's about $1.5 million in sales. But again, like that's just a hopeful assumption. More than anything, we don't have anything quantitative, but nonetheless, understanding the level of value we bring to the marketplace, it's understood that we will make money in this market. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So the question was, if it was time to screen a property manager, how could someone know that a property manager would be a good fit for a platform like this? And I would first say at this current stage, those property management companies that are offering subleasing, right? They're already sold on the idea of subleasing. They're already sold on the idea that it brings value to their tenants. They just need a way to make it easier for themselves. So anybody that's currently offering subleasing, potentially on the verge of offering subleasing would be extremely much of a value add. And then once we get down the line, once we've built our reputation, then we can go to properties that don't offer subleasing and then work to change their mind. Yes, sir. Great question. So the question was, what's stopping property managers currently from subleasing? And the answer is, it's a hassle. Bringing in a subtenant, finding a subtenant is a pain in the butt, right? Especially if you can't guarantee that that person's going to take care of the property coming in. But again, that's what credit checks are for. That's what background checks are for. But that also means more work needs to be done. And so a lot of the times what happens is properties say, okay, you know what? I don't want to deal with the trouble of trying to do all this extra work to bring somebody in. I'm just going to say, we don't want to do it at all. But bringing forward a platform like this that makes it easier for these property managers to make subleasing happen while incentivizing them from a financial perspective, because they could get to put money in their pocket, like that DTN example showed you, where they were able to gross more than $100,000 from a free platform, then we're starting to be able to change some property managers' minds. Thank you.
Give another round of applause to Nate. Now give a round of applause to yourselves for asking great questions. Okay. I need 2 minutes of your coordination and your cooperation. Anur is trying to move this Tesla. The people in the back, Jeff is going to lead you on moving them. If you feel inclined to help move these chairs, please do. Otherwise, stay seated. I promise this won't happen at venue. Everyone can return to their seats. People in the back, thank you very much. People in the middle and the front, thank you for being patient. And people online, keep doing the good work.
All right, thank you for accommodating the Tesla there. Promise that this won't be happening at venue since it's not gonna be in a garage, but we'll move on to our next presenter who flew all the way in from Jordan for this. So special, that's how much this means to him, is that he's willing to get on a plane to fly over here. So we have Parker Martin of epiSLS. epiSLS is a novel medical device offering the world's first option for point of care allergy testing. So let's join in a round of applause to bring Parker up.
To be fair, I was expecting to come back from Jordan anyways, but it just so happened to be today. All right. So hello, everyone. My name's Parker. I'm here with epiSLS to tell you how we're transforming the way that medicine handles allergies using a novel medical device enabling rapid, reliable, and accessible point-of-care allergy testing. But let's talk about why that's important. Absolutely. All right. So everyone knows somebody with an allergy, whether that's tree nuts, dog dander, penicillin. People change their lives because of allergies. And the incidence of allergies have been increasing for the past several decades. Today, allergies are the 6th leading cause of chronic disease in the United States. When we misdiagnose allergies, they cost the US healthcare system billions of dollars in excess expenditures, and they lead to significant morbidity through second-order effects of avoidance. But let's zoom in on one specific example, that of penicillin. 32 million Americans, that's 1 in every 10 of us, have a penicillin allergy on our medical record, yet when you actually test these patients, 95% of them are not truly allergic. That means we're avoiding a safe, cheap, and effective class of medication in about 30 million people who could safely receive it. And that avoidance carries a lot of problems. Just having a penicillin allergy on your medical record, regardless of its validity, increases your risk of a surgical site infection by 50%. And if you have to stay in the hospital, your risk of developing a superbug infection jumps up by 30%. This one group of patients, those with fake penicillin allergies, are estimated to cost the US healthcare system $37 billion in excess expenditures each and every year. So we know that allergy testing is important, but how is it done today? Well, today we really only have 2 options. One, I can send you off to an allergy specialist. The allergy specialist will do a skin prick test, which is a 2-hour exam in their office in the middle of a workday. This test is very accurate, but it's not very convenient. In fact, it's not very accessible to many people. There's only one allergist for every 50,000 patients in this country, so it can take months to get an appointment, even if you're lucky enough to have an allergist in your community. Michigan Medicine has one of the largest allergy departments in the country with only 17. Many parts of this country have 0. The other option is a blood-based immunoassay that's been developed by Thermo Fisher Scientific. This test can be ordered by any physician, but it requires us to take a blood sample from the patient and send it off to Thermo Fisher's lab. It takes a minimum of 3 days to return a result, and even then is considered less accurate than in vivo skin prick testing. Neither of these are options if I need to know if you're allergic to something now. But that's where epiSLS has a solution. epiSLS is a novel medical device offering the world's first option for rapid, reliable, and accessible point-of-care allergy testing. epiSLS combines innovative application and sensing technologies to bring the gold standard into the 21st century. It conducts the high-fidelity skin prick testing protocol, but it automates it. And it's patent pending and already in clinical trial here at Michigan Medicine. It comes in 2 parts. The first is the reusable technology unit. This houses all of the hardware and software necessary for the device to operate, and it can be serialized between patients. The second part is the applicator unit. It's a one-time use consumable containing the epitopes we're testing for, as well as the microneedles necessary to apply them. It has to be thrown out and replaced between each test. epiSLS is predicated on a novel sensing technology that I invented. This is an advanced form of computer vision that allows the device to measure real-world spatial data, sort of like an MRI machine. It's supported by artificial intelligence-powered data analysis software, which I wrote to mimic the process of in-office skin reel reading. And that's all combined with a system for automated allergen application to ensure the test can be completed from start to finish in just 30 minutes without human intervention. But that sensing technology really is something worth talking about. Under ideal circumstances, it has a resolution of 400 nanometers. That's about 100 times more sensitive than the human eye, which allows the device to work faster and with more accuracy than traditional manual methods. epiSLS really is the only option that combines the accuracy and reliability of in vivo testing with the accessibility and speed of a point-of-care system. And of course, those benefits will bring value to those who are interacting with epiSLS. We're talking about creating new streams of revenue for physicians who've never previously been able to provide this specialty care to their patients. We're talking about saving hospitals and healthcare systems the money they spend on complications owing to the use of second-line treatments when they have to avoid dubious allergies. And most importantly, we're creating better outcomes for patients as we ensure no one has to receive the second line and gets the best treatment they are safe to receive. This is a bit too much to go into in a 5-minute presentation, but the important part here is that we're selling epiSLS as a razor and blade model, with the razor being the technology unit and the blade being those applicator units. Importantly, we've already identified the CPT codes, which will reimburse epiSLS, and used CMS reimbursement data to model what will be necessary to create a financially rewarding system for all members of this ecosystem, whether that's payers, providers, and of course, us ourselves. Everyone likes to see this, this graph, so here it is. This is analyzing just the beachhead market of penicillin validation in a pre-operative space. Even in that small niche market, we're talking about a serviceable obtainable market of $78 million with a total addressable market of 884. Like I said, that penicillin by itself costs the US healthcare system $37 billion each and every year. And there's room to expand. I focus a lot on penicillin allergies because it's a place where we have a lot of data and we know we can make a big impact. But the technology behind epiSLS is versatile. It can test for any type 1 allergic reaction. That's food, drug, and environmental, most things you think of as an allergy or type 1. That means epiSLS has the ability to expand into other allergy testing, allergy panels, and the ability to grow as our technology is validated and adopted. I believe I've probably taken up my allotted time now, so I invite your questions. Absolutely. Roger, was it? Okay, Roger, absolutely. Come down to Domino Farms, the Allergy and Immunology Clinic. That's Domino Farms Lobby 8. We're running our clinical trial out of there. If you are already planning to get a skin prick test, you'll be given the option to enroll to have our device test you as well. Who am I? My name's Parker Martin. I have a bit of a varied academic background here at Michigan. In this upcoming year, I'll be graduating with my MD, my MBA, and a Master's of Engineering in Electrical Engineering. Yes, yeah. It's very exciting. It's something I've been working on for several years. Yes, absolutely. So I think there are several markets. Like I mentioned, we have a lot of room to expand, but penicillin is a good place to start. Penicillin, again, has a lot of literature talking about the need and the impact we can make. We're starting in that perioperative space because we believe twofold. It's easy to prove the value there, as well as it being logistically easier to get those applicators to the relatively smaller number of hospitals and surgical centers who will be using it. We'll be expanding though. Another really great example is the perioperative, sorry, not perioperative, peripartum space as well. Women undergoing childbirth all have to be tested for a sort of bacteria called group B streptococcus. It's a bacteria that colonizes about a quarter of all women. Normally it doesn't cause any problem at all, but it does cause a problem for babies. In fact, it's the #1 leading cause of infection for newborns. Every single woman undergoing childbirth has to get tested for GBS. And if they're positive, we have to give them, you guessed it, penicillin. It's a great miracle drug, clears the GBS right up. But for the 1 in 10 women who are penicillin allergic, we have to give them a cocktail of backup antibiotics, which don't work as well. That means we have to keep baby and mom in the hospital for an average of 2 extra days while we observe to ensure that baby's safe. That leads to a lot of extra expense and can lead to extra cost and morbidity to the child as well. This is a place where we think that testing for penicillin is going to be very valuable. Down the line, we'll expand into more outpatient testing in places like your pediatrician's office or GP's office, where we might test for things like dog dander, tree nuts, and other allergies you might come in contact with on a more regular basis. Yes. 95. Yeah, no, it's incredible, right? You'd think that should not be the case. There's a lot of things that contribute to that, though. One common one is mislabeling at the beginning. A lot of times, perhaps a common story is a child comes in with an ear infection. We give them some amoxicillin, which is a penicillin-related antibiotic, and they develop a rash. Well, it turns out it wasn't a bacterial ear infection. They had a bit of a virus. You give a virus penicillin and it creates a viral exanthema. That's a known reaction, but people get confused and label it as a penicillin allergy anyways. Maybe the kid threw up and that gets mislabeled as a penicillin allergy. But even if it truly was a penicillin allergy they were experiencing, every decade of life, you have a 4 out of 5 chance of spontaneously desensitizing. So if you had a reaction, let's say I had a reaction when I was 6 years old. Now I'm 26. There's only a 1 in 25 chance that I'd still be allergic. But how many people are going to get retested before they need to know whether they're actually allergic? Yes. How easy is it to scale up? Technologically speaking, financially speaking, very good question. So technologically speaking, you only need to have the technology unit in your office, hospital unit to be able to perform the test. Then you order the applicators. They all one-time use consumables. So there is a supply chain question to be addressed there. Financially speaking, it makes more sense for the hospital, the clinic, the individual physician to increase the number of tests they're doing. Once they have that razor purchased, the technology unit, their reimbursement comes from the use of those applicator units. Reimbursement for each test they perform. So the more tests they perform, the more they're going to be able to cover that overhead of the technology unit and stop turning a profit. Notably too, that profit comes after only about 30 tests. So it comes pretty fast. Good question. So what's the actual process of using the equipment? So how this works, a patient comes into my clinic and says, I think I've had a strange reaction to tree nuts. Well, today I have the solution. I can actually test them for using epiSLS. So I go into my back room and I grab the correct applicator for the tree nut panel. Come back to the patient's room, slide the technology unit and the applicator unit together. The applicator unit has an adhesive we remove and we stick on any exposed skin. It could be the arm, the abdomen, the back, any exposed skin. I suppose we wipe it down with alcohol first to make sure it's clean. Stick it on, I press a button on the device and my work's done. The device operates over a course of 30 minutes. And then when I return after 30 minutes, the device has an easy to read output saying either the patient is allergic or they are not. I remove it from the patient's skin and I proceed with my clinical decision-making with this new knowledge.
I think that's time for questions, but Mark will hang out afterwards for a bit to answer other questions, but let's give Mark another round. I always love when people younger than me do so much with their time because it makes me reflect on the time when I was that age and realize that I wasn't doing anything nearly as valuable. Still not. But with that said, let's bring up someone who is doing something valuable as well. Elisabeth Gerber from ViewPoint. ViewPoint is an educational technology solution that powers engaged learning through role-playing simulation. So let's bring Elisabeth up.
While he's getting that ready, I've given a lot of talks in my life, never in a garage. This is great. I love it. Are we ready? Okay, we're gonna have to go fast. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Gerber. I'm the founder of ViewPoint, educational technology for powering engaged learning. Next. We are witnessing an education revolution. Next slide. The pandemic required virtually every educational institution, K-12, high school, career and professional development, every educational institution to rethink how they educate students. Next slide. It compelled them to use technology in new ways. And it made it very clear that some forms of online and hybrid learning are here to stay, probably forever. Next slide. And the edtech industry that powers online learning is booming. It's expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 12.2% from 2020 to 2025, up to $404 billion worldwide in just 3 years from now. Next slide. But in many respects, online learning is missing the mark. Next slide. It's failing our incredible teachers who lack effective ways to engage and connect with their students. Next slide. And it's failing our students who research shows require positive emotional connections to the material, their teachers, and their fellow students to learn effectively. Next slide. What if we gave teachers and students more of what they need to be effective in the new online reality? Next slide. Our solution is ViewPoint, a proprietary software platform for powering engaged learning experiences through role-playing simulations. Next slide. Think Model UN, where civic students play the role of country delegations negotiating international agreements. Next slide. Think mock trial, where law students practice arguing a case. Next slide. Think leadership crisis challenge, where business students devise a strategy for dealing with a crisis in their company. Next slide. ViewPoint allows instructors to quickly and confidently create engaged learning experiences just like these. Next slide. Developed at the University of Michigan, ViewPoint has already been used in over 200 online, hybrid, and in-person classes. And we've developed about 80 fully featured simulation activities across a wide range of topics and modalities. Next slide. Our students tell us, in their own words, that ViewPoint simulations are interesting, engaging, and fun. They also tell us that they can be provocative, challenging, sometimes chaotic, which is good. Next slide. Oh, actually, previous slide. We also have learned from student feedback that their experiences in online simulations are indistinguishable from their experiences in in-person experiences, and they're equally positive. Thank you. Next slide. Our teachers tell us that ViewPoint allows them to build new engaged learning experiences like role-playing simulations. That's me, by the way. Role-playing simulations that are reliable and easy to develop and execute. Next slide. We started selling ViewPoint through the university's Office of Tech Transfer Innovation Partnerships about a year ago. And we currently have 15 customers. Some of our first paying customers included Stanford, Berkeley, Harvard, Princeton. You might recognize some of the logos. We've got, as I said, 15 institutions already using ViewPoint across a wide range of topics and disciplines. Next slide. We're deploying a two-prong business strategy, selling first directly to individual instructors and their educational departments, academic departments, and second to online and other education content providers like OPMs, like 2U, et cetera, these sorts of institutions. Next slide. So where are we now? As I said, we've been selling ViewPoint through the university for about a year. We're in the process of negotiating the terms of an exclusive license to the intellectual property for ViewPoint. Next slide. Next slide. We are in the process of moving the IP out of the university and into the company. We're looking for talent with skills in JavaScript and Python to help us take the software out of the university and into the company. Next slide. We're building the team. If you are passionate about a future of education that is rich in engaged and fun learning experiences powered by cutting edge technology, I'd love to talk to you. Thank you. Questions? Yeah. Yeah, love it. Yes, absolutely. So the question was outside of higher ed. So for example, people that would benefit from financial education and activities to help them navigate complex public policies or social programs like Section 8, for example. So our Our beachhead market is higher ed. We know that market. We're already selling in it. We've got lots of content. We've also already been working with high school students and nonprofits. I love working with high school students. I'm doing a simulation with 9th graders from Detroit next week at a STEM camp on campus. The simulation activities are 100% flexible. Anytime you want people to experience an interaction with somebody else where they're taking on a role. So in your example, sir, you've got people that are trying to navigate a complex public policy environment, trying to figure out how, for example, if I'm a renter, how would I interact with a landlord in a Section 8 situation and try to better understand what are my incentives, what are their incentives, what kind of questions should I be asking, what kinds of questions should I expect to have to answer in that kind of a setting. That is a perfect design for a role-playing simulation. You can have either a facilitator play the role of the landlord and then have the individuals practice being the renters, or you could even empower individual renters to play the role of the landlords and engage with other people in that setting. And they would learn all sorts of things, right? They would learn confidence in how do I have this conversation? It's practice, it's high fidelity practice, right? It's also beneficial to understand what's going on the other side of the equation. So to step out of my shoes as a renter and have to become the landlord for a minute and wonder, well, why would they ask me that question? Right? So I love the example, and yes, absolutely. This methodology is really well suited for exactly the kinds of broad sets of questions that you're giving an example of, for sure. Yeah, yes. Love it. Thank you for that question. Yes, and yes again. Okay, 3 yeses. All right. So yes, I and students that I'm working with have already developed about 80 simulations. And part of the business model is we've got a content library within the platform, searchable, that think of an app store basically. So we create the content, we deposit in the app store, license the technology, and purchase the content. Basically, it's a case with the simulation activity and all of the materials that you need to run it in a classroom. That's model number 1. Model number 2, an individual who has an idea for their own simulation can create it from scratch in the platform. So we've got a full editing feature, a full editing interface where a series of forms, the instructor walks through them and they make decisions. What's the scenario? Who are the decision makers? Who are the stakeholders? What are the activities or the actions that they need to take? What's the information that they need to be able to play the roles and make the decisions? What are the choices that they're making? What are the outcomes? So the platform basically walks the instructor right through the process. Boom, at the end, they've got their simulation. So that's number 2. Number 3, which I'm still in the development of working through the business model, but lots of other people are out there that could be creating content. And so again, the App Store model where they can create content, deposit it, and then we, the company, will have a process for curating and certifying the content and then selling it back out, splitting the revenues. So in customer discovery, which we've done a lot of at this point, content is the thing that people need. The tool is fantastic. It's easy to use. It's seamless. It's super duper easy, but people don't want to spend the time, even the 2 or 3 hours that it takes to build a simulation. So they're looking for content. And so the platform allows them to take existing content, customize it, tweak it for their own class, and use it really easily. Thank you. Yeah, Jerry. Yeah. Yeah, great question. First of all, let's talk about your simulations because I want you to use ViewPoint. And some of it will be word of mouth. So far, what we've been doing is so we've identified as our beachhead market, my fields basically, and your field, and the fields that are sort of related to business, public policy, law. The examples that I gave, those are sort of the most straightforward applications that we're already developing. I know a lot of people in those fields, and I know a lot of people who know a lot of people in those fields, et cetera. So initially, we are going to conferences. We're in the process of building a website that we'll be able to push people to, but taking out advertisements in professional magazines and that sort of thing. That's the B2C model. To me, a much more effective way is a B2B model. And so we're also talking to textbook publishers. So you can imagine bundling simulations with textbooks, right? If you are teaching a management course and you've got activities that would lend to simulations in your textbook, you can bundle simulations and we can co-market them. We're talking to some folks that are working, that have a big environmental law textbook, for example. And so using the textbook, and then there are some, large textbook publishers also, Pearson and Wiley and so on. So partnering with them and using them through a B2C model, selling to them and having them sell to the final customers because they've got those distribution channels already. The other big market, which I'm pursuing a number of leads, and when I say I have a number of colleagues here who are helping with it, so I should be saying we are pursuing OPMs, online program management companies that make online degree programs. So ViewPoint is available for use in both in-person and online. I started with online because I think that's really where the big bang is going to be, because there's such a huge need, because our kids are falling asleep and our teachers are pulling their hair out. And this is a way to differentiate online programs. And the companies that create online programs like Coursera, like edX and 2U, like FutureLearn, et cetera, they have a huge incentive to differentiate their programs and make them exactly what ViewPoint does, which is engaging. That's the big problem with online learning, is it's boring. And students want these kinds of engaging activities. And this is a way to do it right there. So we're talking to a number of OPMs as well, and thinking of them as a key distribution channel too. Great. Thank you very much.
All right, so let's give another round of applause for our three presenters tonight. Really three great startups. We're going to move now into our community announcement section. So if you have a startup that you're trying to hire for, or if you have a meetup that you'd like people to check out, this is your time to come up on stage and share your announcement. And those online, feel free to type yours into the chat and I'll read them out loud. But as people are doing that, I will quickly announce that when our next A2NewTech is. Hopefully you all enjoyed yourself and you'll be back. It'll be on August 16th. And the plan is to be across the street. So yeah, so that'll be really awesome and fun. So any other announcements for folks? Yes. I do not, but May Mobility owns them. They are autonomous vehicles that just try to make it possible for us to be able to ride around in cars autonomously. And they are here because they park here and they drive around, they gather all this data and they need a place to be able to download it all. So this is where they do it. Yep. Okay. Any other? Yeah, feel free. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Capitalupo. I work in town at a local startup called Nichols. We're actually based over on State Street, right next to the MDen. with my founder, Joseph Gracia. We recently raised a seed round and we're looking to hire for, currently right now we just have posted for a software engineering job. So we're looking for a full stack engineer. We code on the front end in React and on the back end we are Node.js. So if anyone is interested or thinks they might know someone else that's interested, we're really excited about hopefully growing out the team here in Ann Arbor. So would love to connect with anyone if they're interested. So thank you. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. So we are a fintech company working on solving the credit card debt problem. We sell into banks and credit unions. The idea being 90% of like the credit card market is held by the top 10 banks. So Chase, Bank of America, and these companies. So they own most of the debt. And we know that credit cards are very predatory in a lot of their practices, extremely high interest rates. And for people, a lot of people find themselves in revolving debt. So what we do is we sell our product, Credit Card Coach, into the local banks and credit unions. They have this relationship with their users, but a lot of their members don't have credit cards with their local credit union, but they have the familiarity of with who their local bank is. So our product then has users link in their credit cards from a lot of the major providers, and we're able to help using behavioral insights to help them avoid some of these common pitfalls to try and help them get out of credit card debt. And then what we're able to do is then share that data back with the credit union who doesn't know about the debt their members may have with Bank of America and offer financial products to those members through their credit union or bank, such as a personal loan to pay off their credit card debt at half the interest rate that, let's say, Bank of America is charging them. And that's like our basic product that we're working on right now. Yeah, definitely. So I will join. This is my first time here. I just found out about this. So this was awesome to hear everyone present and would definitely be excited about coming back. So I will post our job listing in the Slack channel and any other avenues that I can. Currently, we just are posted on Angel List right now. So that's where our posting lid's at. So, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. All right. We have one announcement online here. From the Michigan Space Technologies. They say they're doing exciting things. Check them out at michiganspacetechnologies.com. They're building rockets and trying to launch in Michigan. So that's pretty exciting. All right. Other announcements? All right, well, with that, I think we'll wrap things up. For those online, feel free to still hang out. I want to open up some breakout rooms. Those here, thank you again for showing up. Again, the next one is August 16th, and feel free to hang out and mingle for a bit. And I think our presenter is going to hang out for a bit too to answer your questions. So thank you all.